Shortages don't start with empty shelves. They start when bulk items quietly disappear. The 50-pound bags, the case lots, the pallet stacks at the back of the store. Those are the first things to go, long before headlines, long before panic, and long before most families realize anything is wrong. Right now, that's exactly what's happening. Smart preppers aren't watching the retail aisle. They're watching bulk availability because that's where institutions, businesses, and emergency buyers move first. When bulk tightens, retail shortages are already on a timer. And here's why 2026 matters. Inflation hasn't reversed. Supply chains are still fragile, and institutional buying is increasing quietly, not loudly. By the time limits appear on the shelf, the cheapest, most reliable foods are already locked up. In this video, we're breaking down 8 bulk items disappearing fast, not to create fear, but to give you timing. Because preparedness isn't about hoarding. It's about moving early, calmly, and intelligently. If you wait until everyone notices, you'll pay more. Or you won't find these items at all. Let's start with the bulk staple that always tightens first.
Why bulk items disappear first. Most people look at grocery shelves. Smart preppers watch bulk supply. Because when pressure enters the food system, it doesn't hit households first, it hits institutions. Restaurants, distributors, relief agencies, and large buyers don't buy small packages. They buy pallets, cases, and 25 to 50-pound bags. Bulk is cheaper, more efficient, and easier to move at scale. When inflation rises, supply tightens, or long-term contracts get locked in, bulk inventory disappears quietly, while retail shelves still look normal. That's why shortages feel sudden to most families. By the time shoppers notice purchase limits or sharp price jumps, the bulk layer is already gone. And once bulk dries up, retail shortages follow every single time. This is why smart preppers don't wait for headlines. They watch availability patterns. When bulk starts tightening, it isn't panic, it's a warning sign. And right now, several bulk staples are already sending that signal. Item number 1. Bulk white rice. Bulk white rice is almost always the first staple to tighten when pressure enters the system. Not because of panic, but because everyone relies on it. Restaurants, distributors, aid programs, and institutions all turn to rice when costs rise and supply feels uncertain. It's cheap per calorie, stores compactly, and feeds large numbers of people efficiently. That's why 50-pound sacks disappear long before small retail bags. Export restrictions, contract buying, and institutional demand lock up supply quietly, while grocery shelves still look normal. By the time families notice higher prices or limits, bulk rice has already been spoken for. Smart preppers watch this closely, because when bulk rice availability drops, it's one of the clearest early signals that wider shortages are already in motion. Item number 2. Dry beans and lentils. After rice, bulk dry beans and lentils are the next to disappear, and most people don't notice until prices jump. When meat gets expensive or unreliable, institutions shift fast to plant-based protein. Schools, food service providers, and emergency programs buy legumes in 25 to 50-pound sacks, not retail bags. That demand drains bulk supply quietly. Lentils tighten even faster because they cook quicker and use less fuel, making them ideal for large-scale kitchens. Retail shelves may still show small bags, but the bulk layer, the cheapest, most scalable protein, is already gone. Smart preppers track this because when bulk legumes start getting harder to source, it's a sign protein costs are about to rise across the board. Item number 3. Cooking oil. Bulk cooking oil is one of the most overlooked early warning signs in the food system. When supply tightens, case quantities of oil disappear long before individual bottles. That's because oil is a strategic input, used not just at home, but in restaurants, food processors, and emergency kitchens. It delivers the highest calories per dollar, and there is no substitute for what fats do nutritionally. On top of that, global oil crops compete with biofuel demand, which tightens supply suddenly, not gradually. When institutions lock in oil contracts, retail shoppers feel the squeeze later as higher prices and smaller bottles. Smart preppers watch bulk oil closely, because once case lots dry up, everything else becomes harder to cook and stretch. Item number 4. Bulk flour and wheat products. Bulk flour and wheat products are another category that tightens quietly before most people realize there's a problem. Grain shortages don't usually start in the field. They start at the milling level. When mills hit labor, energy, or transport bottlenecks, bulk orders get delayed or rationed first. Bakeries, food service companies, and institutions depend on 25 to 50-pound bags, so they lock in supply early. Retail flour can still appear on shelves, but bulk availability dries up in the background. Once that happens, bread prices rise and limits follow quickly. Smart preppers pay attention to bulk flour because when it becomes hard to source, it's a clear signal that grain stress is already working its way through the system. Item number 5. Bulk sugar. Bulk sugar is one of the clearest signs that stress is building in the system, because it's used everywhere at once. Bakeries, food processors, beverage companies, and institutions all rely on 50-pound sacks, not small retail bags. When demand rises or supply tightens, those bulk sacks get allocated first through contracts, leaving retail shoppers with higher prices and smaller packages. Sugar shortages rarely make headlines. Instead, you'll see purchase limits, fewer brands, and steady price increases that never fully come back down. Smart preppers watch bulk sugar because when it starts getting harder to source, it signals that preservation, processing, and morale foods are all about to get more expensive. Item number 6. Bulk pasta. Bulk pasta is another item that vanishes quietly because it sits at the intersection of price, shelf life, and familiarity. Restaurants, institutions, and distributors rely on case quantities because pasta is one of the cheapest ways to deliver calories at scale. When pressure builds, whether from inflation or supply delays, those bulk cases are secured early through contracts. Retail shelves may still show small boxes, but the warehouse stock behind them is already thinning. Once bulk pasta tightens, prices rise fast, and limits usually follow. Smart preppers track this because pasta shortages don't start with empty aisles. They start with missing case lots. Item number 7. Bulk salt. Bulk salt is one of the most underestimated disappearing items, because people assume it will always be available. It's cheap, it's basic, and it has almost no profit margin. That's exactly why it tightens quietly. When transportation costs rise or suppliers prioritize higher margin goods, bulk salt shipments are often delayed or reduced first. At the same time, industrial users, food processors, and municipalities buy salt in large quantities, pulling supply away from retail channels. Grocery shelves may still show small containers, but 25 to 50-pound bags become harder to find. Smart preppers pay attention to this because salt isn't optional. It's critical for electrolytes, preservation, and making stored food usable. When bulk salt availability drops, it's a warning that the system is already under strain. Item number 8. Powdered milk and dairy powders. Bulk powdered milk and dairy powders are usually the last warning sign before retail shortages become obvious. Fresh dairy depends on refrigeration, fuel, and daily transport, which makes it fragile during any disruption. Because of that, institutions and emergency programs prioritize shelf-stable dairy early. They secure powdered milk in bulk containers and long-term contracts, often without any public signal. Retail shoppers don't notice at first because fresh milk is still available. But when powdered dairy tightens, it's a sign planners are already preparing for instability. Prices rise quietly, availability becomes inconsistent, and substitutions get harder. Smart preppers watch bulk dairy powders closely because when these start disappearing, the system is already shifting into protection mode. Why these 8 bulk items disappear first? All 8 of these items disappear for the same reason. They sit at the foundation of the food system, not the surface. Institutions don't buy snacks or variety. They buy calories, protein, and reliability in bulk. When pressure builds from inflation, supply delays, or contract buying, bulk inventory is secured quietly and early. Retail shelves still look normal because stores are selling from leftover stock. But behind the scenes, the cheapest, most scalable food is already spoken for. That's why shortages feel sudden to most people. They aren't sudden. They're just invisible until the bulk layer is gone. Another factor is margin. Bulk staples like rice, flour, sugar, salt, and pasta make very little profit. When transportation costs rise or suppliers have to choose, these items are delayed first. Higher margin products get priority. That's why boring foods vanish quietly while luxury items stay available longer. Smart preppers understand this isn't random. It's how the system protects itself. What smart preppers do differently. Smart preppers don't panic. They don't clear shelves. And they don't wait for confirmation. They move early and gradually, focusing on bulk availability instead of retail appearances. When bulk sacks become harder to find or shift to out of stock, that's the signal, not headlines. They also focus on function over comfort. Cheap calories, long shelf life, and storage efficiency come first. Variety comes later. This approach costs less, wastes less, and avoids competing with the public when shortages become obvious. Most importantly, smart preppers understand timing. Buying early isn't hoarding, it's avoiding the rush. Once everyone is talking about shortages, the opportunity to prepare cheaply is already gone. Bulk items disappearing isn't fear, it's information. It's how the system tells you pressure is already building. The families who feel calm during shortages aren't lucky. They're early. Preparedness isn't about stockpiling everything. It's about securing the right things before competition shows up. Subscribe to Wise Prepper for practical, grounded guidance and tell us in the comments,